Hi, I'm Jackie Golden. Welcome to The Secret Sauce. Today I want to talk about what is customer success. So I thought I'd do a little research, went out on Google, and I Googled what is customer success. And the wiki definition came up and I read through it and I thought, that's a very, very common understanding of customer success. So I thought I'd read it to you. So here's what the wiki says. Customer success is the function at a company responsible for managing the relationship between a vendor and its customers. And the goal of customer success is to make the customer as successful as possible, which in turn improves customer lifetime value for the company. All of that's very true. So what I wanted to do was share with you, while that is true, I believe there's more to customer success that actually creates a more successful long-term company. And that is when you make customer success a company-wide commitment. It's not really just a function in a company, it's a function of the company. So when you're thinking about your customer success, you really want to understand from the customer, what do they define as customer success for them? It's what they say provides real value and a path to long-term ROI for them. They're looking for ROIs, especially if you're talking to CFOs and the people who are funding these types of solutions. They want to know, what are the innovations, optimizations, where are the cost savings going to be? Is there going to be an improvement to revenue growth capabilities? Or ultimately, is this going to help lead to some kind of contribution towards profitability or improvements in profitability? So those are some of the things that you want to think about when you think about customer success. The other part of that is the value, right? For a customer to want to continue to invest, there has to be value and there has to be eventually a long-term ROI. And what I notice when I talk to a lot of my clients, when I say, what is customer value? These are the common things. They say things like, our solution makes their job easier. It provides better information, or it allows for improvements in capacity or productivity. And obviously with technology, one of the common ones is automation. It provides automation. And while these are all very good and very common, and they provide great value props for the sales organization, they tend to be very generic, and you start to sound like all your other competitors. So the real challenge in customer success and defining that for your target market is tying those soft ROIs to the harder ROIs. And realize this, sometimes it's an accumulation of soft ROIs over time that lead to the hard ROIs. And I think the industry recognizes that. But if you don't tie these two together, you're going to make it difficult for your customer to justify a solid business case for that longer term investment. So remember, we're trying to build customers for life. You want them to be loyal to you as a vendor. You want them to think of you as the partner that they want to stay with long term. So it really does take tying those two together to make it work really well. What I really want to do is kind of share an approach that I've used over the last 20 years that helps define the right customer outcomes that will tie to those real ROIs. But before I go into the approach that I've used, I want to just make a couple of assumptions. Here's the assumptions I make when I'm going in and talking to clients. One, that you have an agreed to focused target market. So if you're trying to be all things to all people, that's really difficult to come up with very specific customer outcomes that can lead to value and ROI. So number one, a focused target market's been defined and agreed to at your leadership level. Number two is that you have an agreed to go-to-market strategy for that target market. And number three is that you have a definition of what is the typical customer in that target market. I like to use the 80-20 rule because I recognize there's always exceptions to the rule. But you really want to try to figure out as a team, what's a typical customer look like in that target market and what are some of their challenges. So with those assumptions, here's the approach that I normally would take. First thing we do is look at that target market, that typical customer, and we try to understand what the challenges are for them. So what are their top challenges? What is the cost of those challenges to them? And what could you do to help prevent them from basically having those challenges on a regular basis? Or how do you tackle those challenges and help them to be able to achieve their growth targets and their goals for each year? And then once you understand the challenges, then the next step is that from there, you're going to define those outcomes. So the idea is take each of those challenges and then start to identify outcomes associated with each of those challenges that solves those problems and challenges in the most effective and economic way possible. And you want to make sure that those outcomes provide real value and ROI that would be worthy of the investment that you're asking for. So once you have that set of outcomes defined for the challenges, it becomes easier then to start to identify what are the value props. So if you were able to deliver on those outcomes, what kind of values would they actually achieve at the end of either the implementation or a certain amount of time using your solution? And sometimes that can be simple things like we talked about, optimizations and automations, and those are okay. That's fine that they start there, as long as those values accumulate over time, you can create that long-term roadmap to a real hard ROI. So the idea is try to turn them now into value statements or value proposition statements for that target market. But a lot of times what my customers say is, this is all great, we have it all defined, but how do we know we've hit the mark? Well, obviously going back to your customers. So if you have some customers in your base that are very successful, have been with you for 3 to 5 years, those are always a great set of customers to talk to. And if you have the opportunity with your marketing department to go after some of the prospects in that target market and work with them and get their feedback, that's a great audience for you to do some testing of these value props and outcomes and values statements that you're making. And one of the ways is go test it. So do a little beta program, grab a sales team, and go out and basically start pitching that you understand this market, you understand their challenges, here's their specific outcomes, and here's the values you can expect in over a certain period of time. These would be fairly reliable ROIs that you could bank on. And see if you get everybody in the room shaking their heads in agreement or making statements like, you really understand our business and our challenges. You seem like you really have a plan for how you're going to deliver those outcomes, and that they are giving you feedback that everything you presented gives them confidence that you can deliver on that long term, and that you'll be there to help them figure out how to get from where they are to that longer term plan. So those are some of the feedbacks that you'll get. But what I thought I would do is use a real life example from my past life with Workfront. So when I was with Workfront, also known as @Task, we decided to focus our market strategy on departments. And the 2 departments we started with were IT and marketing. So for this example, I'm just going to use the marketing department, and that was our target market segment, one of them that we started with. So within that, what we did is we worked in a team and we said, what are the challenges for a marketing department? And of course, we ended up with a pretty long list, but I'll just rattle off some so you kind of get the feel for what are the challenges. So we got feedback from both our customer base, and marketing was able to get some feedback from some prospects on what some of their challenges are in our discovery phase of our sales cycles. And these are some of the things that came up. Managing hundreds of projects across 3 main functions. So those 3 main functions within marketing are brand management, demand generation, and sales enablement. So they had a lot of projects. They needed to figure out, because most corporations have a small marketing team trying to manage those hundreds of projects, they also needed to figure out how to optimize the capacity of that team to be able to deliver on that volume in the shortest period of time. So all of these marketing tactics needed to go on a regular basis with a small team. And the other challenges that they had were things around collaborating within the marketing department and across all the other departments. They needed help to get quality content and also to enable them to deliver on these projects in a timely manner. And then obviously it's visibility across all of those projects. Where are they at? So they had all these marketing tactics going on in each of these 3 main areas, and they needed visibility, and then they also needed to know which investments were paying off. So if we're spending this much money, what is the return on that investment? So they could make quicker business decisions on stop spending money on the things that aren't working, so they can move those dollars, marketing dollars, over to the things that were working, and then maybe experiment with some other new things. And then obviously pipeline management, visibility, and data accuracy, and the list goes on and on and on. So we were able to identify those challenges, which then allowed our team to start talking about what are the outcomes. So the outcomes that we wanted to help them establish were things like an online project management dashboard showing the projects by each of their categories and their current state of progress, any roadblocks highlighted, anything that was going to prevent it from being delivered on time. And then things like creating a metrics dashboard showing marketing's ability to improve their on-time delivery. So things that were taking, weeks, could they now start on a regular basis delivering those tactics in days, and showing that kind of progress and that type of optimization, and obviously lowering their total cost and their ability to deliver within the budget and on time across all the marketing tactics. And another one was around workflow automation, optimizing that, allowing collaboration globally as well as across functions. That helped to shorten their period of time to be able to deliver on these projects. But the other big thing it did is it improved the quality of the content. So now the actual results from the tactics were improving over time because the quality of the content was getting better. And then obviously dashboards showing metrics associated with the marketing tactics, dollars invested, where those dollars are being utilized. And then one of the last ones was around a capacity model to optimize the team. So, and there was lots more that we had come up with, but that just gives you an idea of how we came up with outcomes associated specifically with some of those challenges. And so once you have that, then you want to lead to where's the real ROI. So those were the value props that we were talking about that we'd be able to deliver on. But now how does that turn into real hard ROIs? So what we did is worked with customers and over time helped track what was actually happening and where the real improvements were. And we were able to start to identify ROIs like increase their pipeline generation by 10% per quarter, or increase sales win rates by 10%, save marketing costs, save 20% in their overall marketing costs across all tactics, decrease in CAC, cost to acquire customers, or even their improvement in revenue predictability to be within 10% of the forecast because they got so good at their pipeline lead generation and the accuracy of that information. So those are just some of the things that give you an idea of how you can turn those into hard ROIs. So just to kind of summarize, this is my definition of customer success, and this is a pretty simple exercise that you can go through with your own leadership team, that you can update your go-to-market strategy and be very specific about understanding your target market, what are their challenges, defining those outcomes, turning them into value statements, and then into some long-term ROI. That'll help you develop your roadmap as well as to how you help your customers achieve that on a regular basis. And that'll get really crisp for your target market as to what customer success looks like for that target market. It gives your customers a lot of confidence as well. I think that's what you're going to see come out of doing this type of approach to identify customer success for your target market, because it tells them you understand their business needs, their challenges, you can articulate the problems they're facing, and they really feel like you've heard them, you understand them, and you are providing something that really is going to change and optimize their organization and be a game changer for their own company performance as well. And some of the things, again, just to summarize, you want to really tie those soft ROIs to your harder ROIs. You want to be able to come up with those stories, but it's much easier if you create this systematic, repeatable approach to defining customer success for your target markets. And what you're going to end up with is the ability to actually deliver in a repeatable manner that then will lead to your customer commitments into long-term relationships on a more regular basis. Because remember, your goal is to create customers for life. So it can start with a simple value and end up into a more long-term ROI, but in the end, you want that long-term roadmap that leads to that continuous value that you're going to provide to them over time, and even continuous ROIs that's going to transcend into that hard long-term ROI and that long-term commitment. And that way the customer is going to year over year want to invest back in you because you've been able to deliver real game-changing results for them. So hopefully this session was helpful for you. It helped you to understand how I define customer success and how I approach it with my customers. I'm going to continue to share all kinds of topics on customer success. The next one will be about assessing your customer base and figuring out where they are so that you could then improve the definition of customer success for your target market. So I hope you listen and continue to tune into our podcast and the things that we're going to continue to talk about. But if you have any questions or you want to contact me directly, you can go to our website at www.LandNExpand.com, or you can fill out the contact form and we'll get in touch with you as well. Or you can email me at jackiegolden@LandNExpand.com. But we really appreciate if you go out on iTunes. Love your feedback. If you provide any reviews or feedback or topics that you'd like to talk about, always open to that. So again, Secret Sauce will continue to discuss all kinds of topics relating to long-term customer success, things around building customer revenue, profitability, lowering churn over time. But I really appreciate you taking the time and listening. Until next time, thanks and have a great week.